There's a strange, almost forgotten piece of trenchcraft that keeps resurfacing in old service journals, quartermaster notes, and oral accounts from surviving infantrymen. For those who spend time digging deep into the overlooked innovations of World War I, the small inventions are often just as fascinating as the large ones. One of the most intriguing is the little-known lost candle used by soldiers to heat food without an open flame. If you're the kind of person who wants to understand how men survived under constant artillery, wet trenches, gas warnings, and strict light discipline, this is the kind of detail that completes the picture. And honestly, for survivalists today, this forgotten technique has real practical value. So let's take a solid minute to walk into the world where this candle mattered, why it existed, and why so few people talk about it now. Because once you understand that, the rest of this guide hits much harder. The Western Front was hostile to anything that gave away position. A match flare, a stove ember, even a sudden glow inside a dugout could draw fire. Light discipline wasn't a suggestion, it was survival. But men still needed warm rations. Hard biscuits, tinned stew and ration packs became nearly inedible in winter without heat. So soldiers improvised. Among these improvised solutions was a compact, low-smoke heating candle made from wax mixed with oxidized metal powders or wax combined with solid fuel compositions that burned extremely hot with almost no visible flame. It wasn't standard issue across all armies, but it circulated hand-to-hand the way good field hacks always do. A soldier who learned it from a sapper might teach it to a new recruit. Eventually, it became one of those whispered trench tricks that never made it into official manuals. This lost candle produced heat through controlled smouldering rather than open combustion. In simple terms, the wax carried the fuel, while the embedded metal powders or slow-burning compounds created a reaction hot enough to warm a mess tin, but not bright enough to be seen from a distance. When used inside a mess tin, placed under a trench tool or shielded by a greatcoat, the heat looked like nothing more than a dark ember. The brilliance of the design wasn't in intensity, but subtlety. Steady heat, minimal smoke, zero flame signature. Soldiers who used it said the advantage was immediate. It meant hot rations during bombardments, it meant not risking sniper attention, and it meant warmth during nights where even a match was too dangerous. The basic method involved melting down whatever candle wax a soldier had access to, pressing it into a small tin, and mixing it with shavings of metal from spent casings or fine filings from tools. The ratio varied, which is why some versions worked better than others. The key was to create a fuel block that didn't flare. Once set, it could be lit briefly, allowed to start its smouldering reaction, and then closed or partially covered to suppress flame and maintain heat. Veterans described heating a tin of stew by placing it directly on the mess tin cup and letting the candle burn slowly underneath. Even in soaked trenches, this method worked because wax-based fuels resist moisture. For practical application today, you can recreate this method by melting plain paraffin wax, mixing in a slow-burning fuel like cotton impregnated with petroleum jelly, or using a small amount of magnesium shavings mixed into the wax before it hardens. The final block should feel dense. When lit and then lightly capped with a metal lid, it shifts into a smouldering state rather than a full burn. That's the closest modern survivalists get to the original effect. It's not about brightness, It's about control. Anyone who spends time in the backcountry, practices stealth camping, or prepares for emergency scenarios knows that open flames draw attention. In some survival situations, the no-flame heating principle is more valuable than high output. A smoulder-based heat source is ideal for warming food inside shelters, under rain tarps, or in situations where you need to avoid light pollution. A direct way to apply the concept of the lost candle is through a small tin stove setup. You fill a metal tin with your fuel mixture, ignite it briefly, close the lid until the flame is suppressed, and then place your metal cup or small cooking pot on top. It provides steady warmth for reheating soup or boiling a small amount of water. Another practical use is long-duration warmth inside a cold environment. When insulated within a makeshift reflector, this type of candle can slowly raise the temperature of a confined shelter area without the dangers of open fire. Soldiers used it under ponchos, inside dugouts, and under overturned helmets. The same principle translates neatly into modern shelter systems, emergency tents, and even bug-out cabins. World War I forced men to adapt faster than any conflict before it. The lost candle is just one example of how necessity pushed innovation in quiet, personal ways. No medals were issued for this. No official procurement stamped it. But it mattered to the men who used it. It meant warmth when the environment tried to freeze them. It meant food that didn't taste like metal cans and misery. And it meant survival without exposing themselves to enemy observation. If you found this breakdown valuable, make sure you subscribe to Warfield Prepper Chronicles and share this guide with someone who appreciates the forgotten edges of history. This channel thrives because of people like you who enjoy going deeper than the surface. Stick around because more lost wartime innovations are coming and you won't want to miss what's next.